morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Paul Van Meter. I'm one of the founders of Adion Systems. We'll get started in just about a minute here, but feel free to type in the chat box there where you're from and any other information that you'd like me to know about you. We have a good audience today from around the country and a bit in Canada as well, so that's cool to see. Fellow Canadians. For those that don't know, we are headquartered in Vancouver, British Columbia, with employees both in Canada and in the US, and a fast-growing team with customers as far as Australia, actually, which is pretty cool. We have 2 customers in Australia. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go visit those customers when we did the installations, but that's okay. They're up and running, doing just great, even without us getting to go to Australia. All right. Well, it is the stroke of 9, so for the sake of expediency, let's go ahead and get started. So again, welcome everyone. My name is Paul Van Meter. Thank you for joining me today. I'm one of the founders of Adion Systems. We developed ProShop, which is a paperless and web-based shop management tool specifically for machine shops, fab shops, any kind of company that is making complex manufactured parts, typically under a regulated industry like ISO 9000, AS9100, or the like. Before we get into what ProShop is and does, I wanted to set the stage for what ProShop is actually like and what it's like for a company using ProShop. It's very different than most companies think of with their prior ERP experience. First of all, there's no paper. There is not a process within our system that requires printing paper, from the original estimate all the way through processing the job and getting it out the door. All employees are using ProShop all day on tablets, computers, or laptops to access and enter the information they need. It is absolutely the backbone of their companies. Tribal knowledge is essentially eliminated because it's all within ProShop, where it's easy to access, easy to update. Everyone knows what they're supposed to be working on, and there's no one running around frantically looking for paper documents. They all look calm, and they're focused and dialed in on throughput and profit. It is amazing for us to see the before and after, and of course, it's even more amazing for our customers who are experiencing those results. They tell us that without ProShop, their days would indeed be very long, and that's an actual quote from a customer. So let's look at a little bit of the history of our company. My partners and I went to college together, went through a program called the Vehicle Research Institute at Western Washington University, and we basically got to design and build cars for our college experience, which is about the most fun thing I could ever imagine. When we got ready to graduate, we decided to go into business together rather than go get separate jobs. One of our partners took out a second mortgage on a house that he owned, and that allowed us to buy our first machine and have a few months of rent left over. We focused on doing complex machining and engineering work, eventually getting certified for AS9100 design work as well. And when we got big enough, these were obviously very complex things that we were working on, and we knew that we wanted to be a paperless company from day one. So we started working using an Excel-based system that we built from scratch. And it worked great for the first few years. Actually, about 3 years in, we realized that it just wasn't going to scale with us as we were growing. We were about 10 or 12 people at the time, and we knew we needed something different. So we had all the other software package companies, some of which you guys may be using today. I won't name any names, but the typical players in the machine shop industry. We had them come give us demos, and to be blunt about it, we were just completely underwhelmed by what they were showing us. We realized that we would still need to buy a few other software packages to manage everything that we needed as a CNC shop. And we were always do-it-yourself kind of guys, so we started developing ProShop back in the year 2000. During the next few years, we grew extensively, some years at up to 100% growth. And we really credit having ProShop to allow us to grow and scale that quickly and keep it all manageable without falling off the rails. We had several companies come and ask us to buy ProShop or suggest that we should sell it because it was the most robust software that they'd ever seen. These were things like customers and vendors and just other companies that we would have come through our shop. So we eventually sold ProShop to our first customer in 2008. They were actually our largest machine shop customer, and they approached us and basically insisted that we sell ProShop to them, even though it wasn't actually for sale. After some arm twisting, we said okay, and the results they got were really quite unbelievable. Although they're actually true, you can ask Rich, the guy in this video. And it really made us realize that we maybe have stumbled on something a little more important than we had previously had thought. They freed up 20% of their overhead staff immediately. They had a reduction in late orders of over 90%. As you can see here, a conservative ROI of 300% in the first year. It was really incredible. They have since grown from about $8 million with 35 people to about $18 million in revenue with 40 people. And they tell us recently that they would need about 10 more people in their company if they weren't using ProShop. It's really been an amazing path to watch. So with that success, we decided that maybe we should get into the software business. So in 2014, we sold our CNC company. We had about 25 machines, about 75 people, and it was sort of a bittersweet end to a very amazing journey, but we were super excited to get into selling ProShop. Do sort of the live demo portion of things and show you how ProShop works. Let me jump over to sharing my screen. All right, here you go. So ProShop is designed to cover virtually everything a company needs, from estimating through shipping, overlaid with a very robust and certified quality management system. Let's just take a quick brief. So we're going to first look at sort of a very brief view of some of our modules, and then we're going to dig into a few sort of key functions and workflows that are particularly important for companies that most other systems just don't offer. So starting at the top, well, starting at the beginning of the workflow, I guess I should say, we come to our estimating module. The estimating module allows us to browse and search, create new estimates from scratch or from templates very quickly and easily, saving 80–90% of the time of building other ones from scratch. We go take a look at an actual estimate. It has lots of rich detail, which will then be pushed down into the manufacturing process, but it's still very quick and easy to update. We have the ability to create detailed routers with all of the time budgets, including things like non-reoccurring setup time and inspection time, which many software companies don't offer. You can have multiple different quantities and markups, customized terms and conditions that are going to feed onto the quote page to our vendors, or excuse me, to our customers. When we are ready to create quotes, we can easily do that right from this menu, create those quotes very quickly and easily. And you can also choose to handle how you deal with non-recurring expenses. From this quote, we can launch a new customer order directly and go right into work order processing, contract review, and the things that follow. Let's jump back for a second, go into our part module. The part module allows us to, which is typically initiated from the estimating module, by the way. When you create an estimate and you win that job, part of the workflow is to duplicate all that estimate into the part module. This brings all this information into ProShop, where it can be further refined by the planning or engineering departments, including the ability to support multiple routings. See this column right here, ProShop has the ability to support multiple different routing methods for any particular part number, and we can see those by clicking on this link here, and it will separate out and show us all the different routing methods, which can be extremely useful for very dynamic shops that have different methods of making things, different configurations. One of the more important aspects of the part module is the ability for us to embed all of the work instructions and tool lists and inspection requirements, run descriptions, everything that basically anyone would need to execute a job on the shop floor and record those inspection results as you go. So this is one of the key elements of eliminating the paper job travelers and having it all be digital. So all this is accessed using computer screens right at every workstation out on the shop floor. And we have, again, things like instructions. We have our list of cutting tools. Those cutting tools will be feeding into our tooling module where we can see where we buy these tools from, what are all the parameters about this tool that CNC programmers will need to know, how many do we currently have in stock, how many are we currently using in different machines out on the shop floor. You can see a list of all these machines that currently have this tool in their tool carousel right now. I can see how many are forecasted for the future demand for all jobs we currently have in the system. This is essential for ensuring that we always have the tools that we need and we don't have any downtime of our machines or equipment because we don't have the tools we need available. This is a very common occurrence in machine shops, and it's virtually eliminated inside of ProShop. Let's jump back and look at our part again here. And I want to briefly describe how we do inspection plans. So ProShop has the ability to define an inspection plan for any type of operation. So we call it part check information. So here we can see that here for this part number. We can see the bubble tags that go with the drawing. If I wanted to pull up that drawing, I could just open another tab here, click right here on the link, and there we go. There's a copy of the drawing. So back here, so this inspection plan will be related to that drawing. You can see what all the drawing specs are, inspection equipment to use, the tolerances, which ones we want to also check in process. I could also add any pictures or photos about how we do this check. And let's go jump real quickly over to a work order and show you how we turn that into first articles and in process. So I'm going to open up this work order right here. And let's go to operation. Actually, let's go right here to what we call the first article master. So this is sort of the overall first article, including the inspection points at any particular operation. You'll see that there are multiple operations here. Again, with all the dimensions, there's a copy of the drawing if I want to pull it up. Here's all of our inspection results from different inspectors. And I can also pull these up into a AS9102 format if that's going to be the requirement of our customer, and I'll show you that in a little bit. I can also go in here, let's see, operation 60, and even look at something like the actual in-process inspection results. So here we go with some in-process inspection. Again, showing some of the good ones in green, the yellow ones are the ones in yellow that are getting closer, and the ones in red that are bad. And if I double click on any of these, it will bring up the NCR that was created at the time that the operator was running, and that part was labeled as non-conforming. ProShop will automatically analyze those results and prompt you to create a non-conformance report right then and there. So let's come back here and go to our contact module. So with our contacts module, we can track and record all of the requirements from our various customers and vendors and such. Here's an example of a customer contact module page. At the top, I can click on links to virtually anything related to that customer. I can click on a list of their parts, all their current or active work orders, or all historical work orders, estimates, quotes, packing slips, any active or outstanding orders from them, a list of any NCRs that we've ever generated for any job that we made for them, RMA numbers, delivery, profitability for the client. We, of course, can record various shipping addresses, company personnel, various websites, that type of thing, of course, is obvious. But some of the areas we have down here, like this shipping section, all of these types of settings will drive specific behaviors in ProShop for this particular customer. Our goal with the contact module is to document exactly the way this customer wants to be communicated with, wants to receive their shipments. Basically, any touch point we have with them, we want to engineer those touch points and make sure it's always to their preference. So we can specify exactly how we ship product to them, in what shipping methods, with what on-time delivery windows, with certain instructions for packaging and shipping, how long it takes to ship to them. And all of these settings will drive specific behaviors and information in ProShop for the actual jobs we process for them. Some other examples are further down here, where we have all these quality requirements. So we can see that this customer does require certs, material certs, plating certs, anything that has traceability. They require certificate of conformance. They want first articles only when there's new revisions. They want that in the AS9102 format because this is an aerospace client. And then I have a number of other configurations that I can set, including if they require ITAR control of their documents, projects. So again, these configurations and settings will drive very specific behaviors and formatting of the documentation that we provide to this customer. This is a key part of ProShop, is being able to provide the people doing the work the exact instructions that they really need and want without having them have to go look and dig for it. Let's talk about purchasing for a moment. The purchasing dashboard, here we go. This is our purchasing dashboard. Purchasing, when a job has gone through the engineering and planning process, and we know all the materials that we need, we know all the cutting tools we need, we know all the inspection equipment we need, hardware and BOM items that might be needed, all that is fed directly into our purchasing system, and specifically our purchasing dashboard. We actually use a shopping cart system for putting work orders inside of shopping carts and then checking out, if you will, as we issue purchase orders to various vendors that we might need to buy things from. So here's an example. I have a shopping cart with a bunch of different work orders in it. There's probably, if I scroll to the bottom, there are 72 work orders inside my shopping cart here. And I have several paths I can go down by different types of things, but let's go down this COTS BOM purchasing path for a moment. So this is where I'm going to buy all of the sort of off-the-shelf hardware and things that I might need for all these jobs. What I've done in this first step of the process is, for these 72 different jobs, is ProShop has queried all of the part level and work order bill of materials for these, and combined and aggregated all the demand into individual part numbers. So, for example, here, FAS10, this is a rivet that we have in inventory that we use for many jobs. Here in this work order column, I can see all of the different work orders that are going to require this rivet. I can see what work order it is. If I mouse over these work orders, it shows me a pop-up of what exactly that work is, who's in charge of it, a little thumbnail of a picture of it, all that kind of stuff. I can see who's queued it up, when they need it, how many they need, and then all that gets combined. ProShop tells me how many we currently have in inventory, what our best price is from our approved vendors, how many I currently need for all the jobs that are currently in my shopping cart. Although we also display how many are needed in total for all jobs currently active in the company that don't have their allocations met yet. And then we can summarize that all into how much ProShop thinks we need to buy based on our minimum reorder points, economic order quantities, safety stock, and all those types of things. So over on the far right, we can see the recommendations of what ProShop has for us to buy for all these things. I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom, click go to the next step, where it will allow me to confirm or change the approved vendors that I would like to use for this order. So here I can see it's pulled in all my approved vendors. If I decided I wanted to change one, I could certainly change it by clicking here and choosing a different vendor. And for this example, we'll just go with our approved vendors. Scroll down here, go to the last and next step, where we can now issue purchase orders to each of our vendors for all the items that we have selected to buy from them. So we'll use this one as an example, application specialties. They're going to get these three part numbers. There's all the details. And if I click right here to create a purchase order, ProShop immediately propagates a purchase order to them with all the details, part numbers, order numbers, descriptions, work orders, allocations, quantity prices. I just need to change this to outstanding and issue this purchase order to our vendor. That will feed back onto all of the work orders that actually require this demand, link those purchase orders right to those particular work orders, and then I can just keep going down the list, issuing purchase orders to each vendor. So in just a few minutes, we can purchase potentially hundreds of different items from many different vendors in a way that is extremely fast and robust and requires a lot less effort than most typical ERP systems might. All right, let's talk about the equipment module. That's a really cool one. I'm going to actually do it from this tab. You'll notice I have multiple tabs open. ProShop, being web-based, can support multiple different tabs, multiple different windows. You can even be logged into ProShop from multiple places all at the same time. So we don't have the typical problem with ERP systems where you're sharing user licenses that you run out of licenses because people are, you don't have enough for individual people. Because ProShop's user seats are named users, you'll notice my name is in the upper corner. That means your seat is always available, and you can actually be logged into multiple devices all at the same time. So let's go look real quickly at the equipment module. The equipment module allows us to basically track anything in our company that requires calibration or maintenance or anything of that nature. So there's a few different ways we do it. Let's go first take a look at the way we use it with inspection equipment. Here's an example of a caliper. We have some instructions of how we do the calibration. This is something we certainly do in-house. I can see up here that this caliper is only on a single schedule, and of course that's calibrated. It's currently in calibration, so it's currently overdue. It's in calibration right now, so it's been pulled off the shop floor. If I want to click right here and look at the history of every time this caliper has been calibrated in the past, I can do that. I can see every instance, who did it, what the results were, any variations on it. I can also see records of which particular instruments that we use to do the calibration. So for example, if we go and look at this gauge block set, which is primarily the instrument that we use to do the calibration of our caliper, I'm now looking at the equipment record for this gauge block set. This gauge block set has two different schedules it's on. The first is to inspect for scratches and burrs, and we do that internally, of course, once a year. It's due again next January. And then we also send this out for calibration or replacement, and we do that every 2 years. If we look at the history for this item, I can see when that's been done, and I can also click on the actual certs here, and I can see the exact certs that we got when we bought them new and when we got them recalibrated at any time in the past. So in just a few clicks, I can show an auditor or a customer the full traceability of any instrument in our company, the full traceability back to NIST. Let's show for a second how we use ProShop equipment module for, oh, actually that's not the one I want. That was interesting too, but sorry, I picked the wrong one. This one, N45. How we use the equipment module for doing machine maintenance. So here's an example of a typical CNC machine. We have lots of details about it on the left-hand side, a little photo here. You can see I also have a few links here. I can open up the machine manual that we got as a PDF file or whatever, stored on our network. And then I can see that this machine is actually on 15 different schedules, which are range from changing the batteries to air filters and cleaning and changing out the coolant tank, any of that type of thing. Every single one of these can have their own instructions, different people that are responsible. You'll notice here under the responsible column, some of these are a job description, in this case the shop assistant, and I can see if I mouse over that we have 3 different people, Brian, Owen, and Chris, who are all shop assistants. So all three of these people will be proactively notified about this particular item as it becomes due. They'll be notified in a couple of different ways. ProShop has an internal thread-based messaging system, so we will send out automated messages to those three people that this machine needs their batteries checked starting 2 weeks before it actually becomes overdue. We will also be updating various dashboards and to-do items for their what we call their personal document queues for things that they need to work on, sort of to-do lists for them. Some of these items include bombs. So, for example, when we do this service for batteries, we will actually use up these batteries. So, if I click on that, I can see I currently have 13 of these batteries in stock. This will be feeding into our purchasing system. So, if we go below our safety stock level, it will trigger purchasing to order more. So, as we perform this service, we'll use up those batteries. Of course, I can click on that same history, and I can see all the time we've ever performed this particular service. So pretty neat module there for keeping track of all of our equipment. Let's just kind of come back and take an assessment here. We've talked about parts a little bit, customer POs, work orders, vendor POs, packing slips we're not going to dig into. ProShop definitely generates invoices and vendor bills, and we push those into your accounting system. ProShop has integrations with both QuickBooks and Sage 50, so we integrate with those so we can push records such as invoices and bills directly into those systems without any kind of double entry. We've looked at tools. COTS module, we'll very briefly take a peek at that. We'll just take a look at the one that we looked at most recently. This is structured very similar to the tool module we saw before. On the left side, we see all the parameters about this particular COTS item. We can see what the approved vendors are, how many we currently have in inventory, how many are needed, how many are currently on order, and then I have a complete inventory table of all the ins and outs. So ProShop definitely can maintain traceability for multi-level bills and materials. Pretty soon, also with serial numbers, within the next month probably, we'll be supporting full serialization of purchased items and manufactured items in and out of inventory. So that's a little bit about that one. Let's take a look down here. Our work cell module allows us to see exact machine tools, how we by default handle their scheduling rules, whether it's forward scheduling or backward scheduling. This is also the mechanism we use to keep track of all of the cutting tools in the company, where they currently are in use. ProShop even has the ability to integrate with offline tool presetters. So if you're doing the offline tool presetting process for your equipment, we can accept those results right into our length offset columns, and then we can create G10 files automatically formatted for whatever controllers that you have in these machines, and create those and transfer tools from inventory into tool caddies and then into equipment and then back down again when you're done with the job. So pretty neat functions there. Again, not something that any other ERP system we've ever seen has. And that's probably because ProShop is not really just an ERP system. We're actually starting to call it a digital manufacturing environment that really allows you an environment to control all of your manufacturing processes and data all digitally, all in one single cohesive system. Scheduling, of course, is super duper important for all shops, and very few systems do this well. We think ProShop does it quite well. When we open up the schedule, we can see all the different equipment and work centers out in our company, not just machines, but assembly benches or even programming shins, anything like that. If we open up and look at any particular work center, we can, first of all, right next to the name of the machine or the work center, we can see the availability in hours per week, and then the actual utilization in 8-week, 4-week, and 1-week averages for how much time we've actually been spending on that work center. Down inside this table here, we can see all the various jobs that are currently scheduled going out into the future. I can see the duration of time that's expected to take based on the shift schedule of that piece of equipment or that work center. I can see when jobs need to ship. That's these little yellow bars. I can see when they are due to the customer. That is these red bars. ProShop scheduling, I should mention, is finite only. We don't do infinite scheduling. We don't really believe in the concept of infinite scheduling. So basically, it is showing us, and this particular machine happens to be all forward scheduled, so it's all back to back. If I wanted to choose the whole machine or certain jobs, I could certainly push them back up against their latest due dates and backward schedule them. But the job that's currently on the machine right now, ProShop will tell us how much time is remaining based on the progress that we've had on that job. So if we open up this work order, for example, I can see that this is an order for 100 pieces. 45 of them are done through this operation. The other operations have already been completed as well. So that remaining 55 pieces and the inspection that has to be done is going to show us that this is the remaining number of hours left on this work center. As the employees are working on this job and tracking their time and making progress, then the length of this bar will be shortening over the course of every day. If they are hitting the time targets that have been set at the part level and work order level, then the anticipated ending date will remain constant. If they run into problems and they're not making parts fast enough or something happens to the machine, then obviously their progress will stop or be slower than target, which means that the ending date will start sliding out to the right. And then as that, well, I guess more accurately, time will be continuing sliding to the left, but this job will not be worked on or completed at the same rate. Therefore, the job after it will start getting pushed out, the job after it, and so on and so forth down the line. You'll notice that there's colors on the left-hand side here. The yellow and green are good. That means we expect to finish these operations and ship them by the dates they need to ship. Here you can see this one. This one is right on the edge here. So if we have any more delays or something happens over the next few days, then this one will actually automatically turn to red, kind of like these ones down here. You can see these are scheduled to run over the course of July 3rd, 4th, 5th. But the date for this job to ship is actually July 2nd. So it's not currently scheduled to ship on time, which is why these are red. So people will be alerted that there's a problem here potentially. And we may still be able to make the due date because it's not all the way due up here. And the total difference between the shipping time and the due date will include things like lead time to the customer, which I mentioned earlier. It will include the length of outside processing lead times. And it actually will change over time. So if you have a job that has multiple outside processes, the shipping date will first display the first time you leave your company. And then as it comes back from an outside process, ProShop will update and display the next time it needs to ship, and so on and forth, until you finally have the date it needs to ship to the customer. We've seen customers with dramatic improvements in their on-time delivery performance because ProShop is allowing them to focus on when things need to ship rather than when they actually are due. Let's go take a very brief look at our quality management systems. I'll start at the standards module. This is the typical way we like to do this. This example company that we have here is certified to a number of different standards, including AS9100, so let's focus on that one. Here's the standards for AS9100 right in front of me. If I click on any section of the standard, this is the actual verbiage from the standard itself. And ProShop has a tool that we call the requirement fulfillment locations. What this means is we can, and let me expand this out here, we can highlight, when we go into edit mode, we can highlight any section of text and create a URL hyperlink into the quality system or even to an external document if we want to, of where we show an auditor how we meet that section of the standard. So for example, this particular piece of text, improved and process and quality of the management system, which we have link number 1. So right up here, so let me just close this. So when an auditor comes and says, well, show me how you meet this requirement of the standard, we can just click on those links and open them up and show them and say, for example, one of the ways we meet that requirement is through our quality procedure 9.3 for management review. Cindy, our president, is the person in charge of it. These are the list of people who have to approve this document annually or on draft rev changes. You can see currently that is not reapproved, so we probably had our annual change come up recently, and these folks they would get automatic alerts in the messaging system, and they would need to come here and reapprove this document. If I scroll down, I have sections for purpose and scope and procedure. These are fairly minimal right here because in this example, we are using flowcharts fairly extensively to document the actual business process and procedure. So I can kind of browse through and look at the flowchart there. I can also see a list of related documents. I can also see a list of what we call the requirement fulfillment references. So these are automatic backlinks that ProShop creates back into the standards module, the standards module for any standard that is pointing to this particular procedure. So I could follow these right back and go to the standards module. Let's drill a little bit deeper and look at an actual task. So a quality procedure is a fairly high-level document. And if I want to get into more specific work instructions, I'm going to click on the task. So I've moved into my task module now. This task is for management review. I can see, currently what rev it's at. It's currently at rev F. If I wanted to look at an archive index, I can open up and see a complete list of the archives, and I can browse through and look at those if I want to. I can also open up the requirement fulfillment references. So I can see that this particular procedure here, or this task, is being referenced by these parts of the AS9100 standard, and also the API standard is also pointing as well. So if you have a company that is certified to multiple different standards, they can all have their own requirement fulfillment links back and forth into our content, making it very easy to manage and keep track of. I can see that we have 3 different people that are on this training approval list. They have their user proficiencies. We can see it's their duty to do it. If I clicked on any of these little training certificates, I could see who did the training of those people and when they got trained. So we always maintain a complete training history in ProShop here. And then the actual task itself is listed on the left-hand side. So when we perform a management review, we're going to pull up this task, and we're actually going to reference it and make sure we go through the entire thing accurately. If I want to look at what the training is for management review, I can click here, and this is where we can document actual training for how we do that task. And this could be in the form of videos or questionnaires, or it could be a boilerplate type of statement that the employees have successfully completed and shown training, showing their proficiency to a trainer. So kind of a neat system there. Let's go talk about some of the transactional modules in ProShop for quality. And I'm going to start with an RMA, return material authorization. We're going to click on this first one, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story of this part here. So we had this set of parts. They were shipped to the customer. A couple days later, we got an email from the customer saying, hey, unfortunately, there's some parts that got scratched. I need to return them to you. They told us their purchase order number. We looked that up in the system and figured out what work order that was. Put in the work order, issued a new material RMA for 2 pieces, just wrote some brief notes about what it was. And when we got the parts back, we received them right here on the RMA. We got a time and date stamp of the person that did the receiving of that process. We inspected the parts, took a picture of them, added that picture right here to the page. Indeed, they were scratched, and we could tell that they were scratched because the packaging wasn't sufficient. And because this was an actual non-conforming product, we are going to now come up here to this little plus button in the corner, and we're going to issue an NCR to ourselves for this instance. When I click that, ProShop will pull all this information forward, all the metadata for the work order number and the client and the part number and the PO number and the rev level. And it will fill in an NCR with all that information. And it will link itself right here. So I'm going to click here, and it pulls forward that NCR, and I can then fill in the actual details of the nonconformance. In this case, we had a cosmetic surface. It got scratched. It was because of abrasion. The cause was handling. There were 2 parts affected, and we identified what the problem was, a potential improvement suggestion. And in this case, because this was a nonconformance that actually made it to the customer, besides the dispositioning, which is a rework here with a particular cost, we also need to issue ourselves a corrective action. I'm going to follow the same process. I'm going to come right up here to the corner. This little plus button is built all throughout ProShop, and it indicates a very likely next step of the process. So we're just going to click here, click on corrective action request, and that will, again, just like this NCR, it'll pull all this relevant information forward into our corrective action module and link itself right here in this field. So I will click here. Now I'm in my corrective action module. Again, all this metadata is here, and I can assign this corrective action, in this case, to the QA manager. We can have a description of it. We can plan the direct and root cause, immediate and corrective actions, estimated follow-up dates, implementation dates. All of these dates and assignments by people will automatically trigger notifications in our messaging system. It will also start showing up on the sort of to-do list and dashboards for the people that have been assigned and need to follow up. And then to finalize this story here, the corrective action, of course, was to make sure we don't have insufficient packaging in the future. So if I want to document that or see what we documented, I can click right here on the part number. Now I'm in my part module for this part number. Right here in big, huge red letters, and this will display prominently on every work order we ever issue again. We need to package these really well. And furthermore, I'm going to go into my shipping and packaging operation and see a detailed instruction that would have been put in about our need to package these well. And these instructions will be presented to the people doing packaging forevermore in the future whenever we process this same job again. So that's a little bit about the quality side of things. Lastly, before we get into a couple of key functions, I'm going to take you just on a little tour of the company positions and users module. We're actually going to start with users, and I'm going to pull up my favorite, Mark Machinist, right here. So Mark is an employee of our company, therefore he is in the users module. ProShop is designed for all employees to be named users and have their own user licenses. We have 3 different types of user licenses. ProShop will be, well, Mark here, being a manufacturing staff, will have a manufacturing type of license, and which are the least expensive types, but still extremely capable and much more functional than most shop, quote-unquote, shop seats in a typical ERP system. So I can see that Mark has a few different roles in the company. He's an entry operator. He's trained 96.2%. He has a little bit of training left to perform. As an operator, he's a little bit less trained. He has a little bit more to perform. He's currently an alternate, or could be in training as a production programmer, where he's only 61% there. He has a lot more to go, and he could work through this list of training items to complete his proficiency and get up to where he wants to be. Down on the left-hand side, I can see Mark has specific targets for how much time he's supposed to be spending on jobs, on doing training and other types of documentation or other types of activities. On the right-hand side here, I can see every time he's had a performance review. I can look at the particular review files. If I click here, I can see who his reviewer is, when is due next. I can perform that review just by clicking here on this button and initiating a new review. Down below, this is all masked from view right at the moment, but I have all this sort of basic HR information about his insurance eligibility, medical plans, that type of thing. And then I can also go look at Mark's what we call value-added numbers. This is how effective Mark is at his job, how much time he spends at work, how much time he spends working on jobs and hitting time targets, and I have a complete history of this for his entire employment with us. And that's all live and in real time. If I want to look at something like a setup machinist and kind of see what that looks like, I can just click here. I can see I have a number of setup machinists in my company. I'm now in my company positions module. On the left-hand side, I can see what the essential functions are of this role. I can see all the different people that are currently in that role, either active or in training, their various training percentages. If I scroll down to the bottom, I can see what all the requirements are for being a setup machinist. And these can be comprised of a combination of individual training items, like all of these about how to set up fixtures and vices and do inspections and cutting tools. And it can also be rolled up of other subcategories. So for example, before you can be a setup machinist, you also need to be trained to be an operator. And if we click there, I can go look at the requirements for being an operator. If I scroll to the very bottom, I can see who the machinists are and what they report to. So they report to the day shift lead. We have 2 different day shift leads. But if I scroll to the top here, we just go click on the org chart. And again, it starts with that small segment. If I jump up a level, it takes me a little higher. And if I jump up again, I can come further and further all the way till the entire org chart of the company. And you can see that we have all the different people in different roles. If I click on this training link right here, it will also display for me the percentage trained that everyone has in those roles. Red means they're not quite trained enough. If there was any green ones here, that would mean they are fully trained in those roles. All right, so that's a pretty good overview. Let's look at a few of our dashboards, and we'll just kind of describe them, and then we'll kind of move along here. So ProShop has about, come here and just kind of show you in this menu. ProShop has about 20 different dashboards that we have built in for all different various functions and job roles. So we can click on any of these. These, of course, can also be for individuals working at certain desktops or computers. They can create their own set of customized links on their homepage. They can put them as their favorite bookmarks. There's all sorts of ways they can have those just instantly at their fingertips. But let's move through a couple of them and just show you here. So one of them, which I alluded to a little bit earlier with Mark, is what we call our value-added numbers. So this dashboard will give you for different date ranges and groups of employees, and it shows us for each week period how long those employees were at work, how much they track their time against doing anything at all using our time tracking system, what that percentage was, how much of their time they spent working on work orders, which was essentially billable work, and what that percentage was. And we can see their individual time targets. If they have exceeded their targets, then the text will be black. If they are below their targets, in the case of Robert here, then it'll turn red. And while Owen at the top here was working on those jobs, he completed 19 hours worth of target time in approximately 22 hours worth of actual work, which means he was 88% effective at hitting his time budgets. And if I wanted to see all the raw data, I could click on this number and I could see all the individual time tracking entries for all that activity. Let's look at another one here that we call this job progress. This is displayed individually on every single work order, but we have a summary dashboard that will show us all the jobs that are currently out on the shop floor and how we are doing against our time budgets. It tells me the work order itself, what work center it's currently at, who's currently working on it, how much time they've spent, and how they're doing against the time budget. So the green bar is telling me how much of the job is completed. The red bar is telling me how much time we have actually spent. In this case, we are under budget. In this one here, we are actually over our time budget. And then the yellow bar has a couple functions, but essentially how we're doing against the estimated time that we had originally estimated, regardless of what the current shop target is. Another example of a dashboard is our shipping dashboard. So as jobs flow through the company through their various workflows, ProShop will be updating all these dashboards continuously all day long. So I can see if I'm working in the shipping department, what I need to work on next. And these jobs will pop in over the course of the day, and I can just click on those jobs and go right to the shipping process, seeing the specific work instructions for the shipping for this particular work order, so on and so forth. Inspection is a critical dashboard. We have many different categories of different types of things that the inspection department may be doing. And this one here, this is a list for waiting on final inspection. So this basically is a list of jobs that are done, ready to ship to the customer, and it is sorted by the date they need to leave. And it will tell you whether jobs are available to ship based on their on-time windows. I can see how long they've been waiting here for final inspection, and again, I can just start working right through and doing all my work. A sales dashboard is a critical one. We have a sales dashboard, a finance dashboard. The formatting of this page is actually kind of old. I don't have the latest version because in our demo system we don't actually have all good real numbers. But essentially it's the same data. We see a list of a summary of all the purchase orders that our company has received in the last weeks and months. I can see the total value of all of our shipments in the last periods of time. I can even graph those if I want, export those. And I can see a list of all the jobs that are currently due going out into the future for the next year plus. And if I click on any of these, of course, you can see that all of these are hyperlinks. If I click on any of these, it will immediately show me a summary for that month period. I should mention that all of the pages inside of ProShop are all dynamically built. So when there are no sort of reports that could be potentially out of date, every time you click on a new page, it queries the database and builds that page dynamically with all the latest information. At the bottom of this page, I can see a list of jobs that have recently shipped and a summary of the profitability of those jobs. And I can click on any of these $ sign icons to go look into the details that comprise that profitability. All right, well, let's jump back to our presentation here. Let's talk a little bit about our integrations. So we have a basic integration with Mastercam that allows us to share cutting tool library information from ProShop into Mastercam. We have a little one from SolidWorks PDM, which allows us to see the contents of the SolidWorks PDM system for each part number automatically right within the browser. On the accounting side, we obviously have integrations with both QuickBooks and Sage. ProShop takes over many of the functions of the accounting system, such as job costing, WIP and inventory calculations, employee payroll, clock punching collection, and then we push those items into these two accounting systems for doing the general ledger functions. On the inspection side, we have an integration with HiQA and their Inspection Manager product, an exceptional product for doing bubble tagging, very powerful, quick and easy, and then we can export that inspection plan that Inspection Manager creates and import those into ProShop quite easily. For aerospace shops, we integrate with NetInspect, so you can also import your NetInspect first article requirements and do all the inspection in ProShop, which is much easier to do, and then export those back to NetInspect at the end when you're ready to submit it to your customer. We are also looking to add any other integrations, always grow our partner base. So if you are interested in ProShop and have a software you'd like it to connect with, please let us know. And let's move on here. I want to share some of our client results with you. This is just from an assortment of different customers we've talked with. Things such as an increase in revenue of 18% and a 25% increase in profit. 10 times faster going from receiving the customer PO till the work orders are being issued and ready to work on the shop floor. Passing an AS9100 audit with no findings at all, doing it in a very short period of time. A 30% increase in overall company throughput with the same exact staff. You know, these are pretty amazing results, and I would be happy to share contact information for the people that actually shared all this information with us. One customer told us they had an increased capacity for complex jobs now. Before in their old system, they just weren't confident in doing complex jobs. Now with ProShop, they feel much more confident, and they've now started bidding more complex jobs and capturing more work from their clients. Our customer recently told us that they used to have up to 10% of their machine time on their various pieces of equipment. In a given week, about 10% of them would be down for various reasons, such as they were missing tools, or they didn't have inspection gauges, or something wasn't ready for that job. And that has basically been eliminated because of the tools that ProShop provides for making sure that all the tools are here, the gauges are here, the programming is done. Those are functions I haven't even shown you yet in the demo. And if you want to learn more, of course, I'd be happy to do one-on-one demos for any of you. So just reach out to me after this. So what is it like working with Adeon Systems? Our customers tell us it's very different than experiences they've had with other ERP software companies. First of all, we are very customer focused. We were that way with our machine shop, which I think was one of the reasons we were so successful in that company. We are very focused on our customers. We have aggressive development. We are always looking to add new features, get feedback from customers, work with them closely to see what's working well and what could be working even better, or what's not working for them. When we decide whether we're going to work with a company, we often do an on-site assessment, or very least a detailed sort of phone interview to determine whether they would be a good fit for ProShop. Just because they want to work with us doesn't necessarily mean they will be a good fit. There are some companies that just love paper and they just can't imagine not having paper, and if that's true, then we suggest they go find a different system than ProShop. Once we sign up with a customer, we work with them closely on data migration and setting up the configuration of ProShop. That is actually a very easy process, much simpler than most other systems. There really is almost no configuration cost in ProShop. Many other ERP systems require, many, many thousands of dollars for configuration and customization and consultants and all this kind of stuff. That just does not exist with ProShop. The configuration process only takes a few hours. The data migration, we have tools now that allow our customers to perform as much of the migration as they want to, so they can minimize any cost from us. We then actually do remote training and then on-site training with our clients. We don't actually have to come on site to do the installation. We do that all virtually in every case. But we are there to support our customers with training remotely or on site as much as they want. Even though we are available to do that a lot, most customers don't need nearly as much training as with most other systems. You may have noticed from the demo I just gave that ProShop is typically navigated through on-screen hyperlinks, which means we're not very menu heavy, and it's much easier for people, companies in general, to learn about how ProShop works and adopt and just learn how to use the system. So we often have customers that within 60 days are pretty fully implemented, and they're running all the jobs on their shop floor. Not in every case. We have some customers that don't go at it as aggressively, and they take a bit longer, and that's okay. But for customers that are really committed and want to move quickly, we can get ProShop on the shop floor working on jobs very, very quickly. We just had a customer that signed up a few weeks ago. Our support person just came on site with them. They had done all the about 10 or 12 sessions of remote training first, and then when he arrived for 3 days, they went from being ready for having jobs on the shop floor, but not having any yet, till 3 days later, all the jobs that currently were out on the shop floor were in ProShop, and all the jobs that were coming up in the future were also going to be managed in ProShop. So basically in 3 days, they've turned off their old system and are doing all new jobs inside of ProShop. All right. Let's see what is next. Working with us. So obviously changing an ERP system is not a decision to be taken lightly. It's a really big decision. We encourage all of our prospects and customers to do as many demos as they want. We're here and available to do that with them. Dig in deep. We've heard more stories of customers that signed up for another system because they did, sort of 1 or 2 little demos. They thought it looked okay, and then they bought it, and they were very disappointed because when they actually started using the system and when they digged into the details, it just didn't provide the functions or the capabilities that they really needed. So here's our contact information. So please reach out to us if you'd like to learn more. And at this time, I'd like to open up, I know I'm a little behind schedule, I apologize, but I'd like to open up the floor for a couple of questions. Let me move over here to look at the chat pod. Here's a question about, can you track time against multiple jobs at once? Yes, absolutely. Let me show you how you would do that. So I'm going to jump onto this work order here, and I can see that I've made 8 parts across operation 70. So let's go ahead and pretend like we're going to run that machine. I'm just going to click into operation 70, maybe go into my my setup information here or something like that. And from up here, I'm going to go click and log in. Just single click, log in. And ProShop is going to autofill as much of this for me as it knows. It knows what job I'm on, it knows what machine I'm on, and what operation I'm on based on the page that I was on when I initiated it. So I need to select my type of work, so I'm running category, and I'm going to change this from 100% down to, say, 60%. And I'm going to click log in. Now I can also go to another job. Let's say I'm going to go to the last other work order I looked at. Oh, sorry, this is the same one. Let's come back to the previous one, maybe this one here. And I'm going to go work on this operation 20 here. So I can come into this job, and let's say I'm going to do some setup on this one. Actually, you know what? Let's do some inspection on this one. I'm going to click on the first article right here, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click log in. So ProShop it fills in, again, as much as it can. Now, in this case, it even knows that I'm probably doing inspection because I'm on the first article. And you can see I'm logged into this one. So I'm going to change this to be 40%. And I'm going to uncheck this one so I don't log out of it. And I'm going to go ahead and click log in. So now I'm logged into both jobs at the same time. And I've been tracking 100% of my time in total, but on 2 different jobs at varying percentages. Now, one thing the ProShop will do as it relates to job costing in this situation is it will track my personal labor cost based on who I am at the proper proportions based on the percentages that I had set, so 60 and 40 in this case. But it will charge 100% of the machine's time during the process of me tracking on those jobs. So presumably on the first job, the machine is running while I'm over working on this other machine, but I just don't need to be there the whole time. So it'll burden the job correctly and accurately as you might expect, and that's how that works. So great question, thank you. Question, how do you see job profitability for jobs? Good question. Job costing is only available to employees that actually have permission to see it. Regardless of what permissions you give people to do different things or modules you can access, we always have the ability to limit the ability to see what we call sensitive data, which would include for sure job costing. So when a job is finished, even before a job is finished, we would have an option. It would be right up here in the menu that we call temp profit, and it will show you the exact profitability of that job so far, how much it expects to bill for, and how much cost you've incurred in purchases and labor costs. Once you actually have finished the job, then this $ icon will automatically appear. At the same time, we will send automatic notifications in our messaging system to the people that are set up to receive such notifications that a job is finished, and they can click to see the profitability summary. It will also push onto the various dashboards like the sales dashboard that I just showed you. But if we click here on this $ icon, we immediately get a full summary of the profitability of this job. And in this case, this is actually an assembly job. So not only do we have this work order, but we have sub work orders with individual costs as well. So and there's 2 major items that I can drill into. I can look at the COGS for purchased items. And if I click on this, this will show me any purchase orders that we issued to any vendor for this purchase order. So here I can see some fasteners and some BOM items, or cutting tools. Those are the total costs. If I pull up this labor here, then it will show me the people that actually ran or worked on this job, how much time they spent, and that total dollars will tell me, based on the actual person, what was our labor cost for that. I can also click into the sub work orders and look in the profitability of those things as well. So great question. And I think with that, I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut off any other questions. But thank you again very much for your time today. Appreciate it. And please reach out to us if you have any questions or would like any one-on-one demos for you or anyone else in your company. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.